Well, do you fancy a glass? It's perhaps a little bit early, isn't it? I've got an evening full of meetings, so I'm recording this earlier than I usually would. But I wonder what your favourite tipple is. Actually, I've not drunk anything since lockdown began, fasting from the Eucharist, so fasting from all alcohol. And you'll notice the glass is empty because as we look at the book of Ecclesiastes, well, that's kind of where things end up. Uh, some of the scriptures are about what to do. Ecclesiastes is more about don't bother, don't do that. It all leads to nothing. Everything is futile, all is vanity. It's a word that's used throughout the book of Ecclesiastes, sometimes translated vanity, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Some people have described it a bit more like this: breath. You see it, it's transient, but then it disappears, there's nothing left. All of life is just like breath. One commentator describes it as like flatulence. Well, that perhaps says more about him than it does about us, I'm sure. But Ecclesiastes is a reflection on the meaning of life and perhaps actually about the meaning of religion, a warning. It's like a call to repentance. It's a kind of John the Baptist kind of a book, stripping everything away and preparing the way. It helps us to see that we can't use religion or spirituality to earn anything, to prove anything, to secure anything. That's not how any of it works. And if we try to exploit the things that God gifts to us as ways of drawing closer to Him, well, we'll find that it doesn't lead anywhere. I like to think of the book of Ecclesiastes as a bit like this. It's a bit like the joker in the pack or the court jester, which helps us to see things from a different perspective, to not take ourselves too seriously, to not kind of assume things, but it kind of helps us to see things from a different angle and to question things, to question our assumptions, to scratch down deep and to see what's there. And at the end of it all, isn't despair as the teacher of righteousness, the one who gathers people around him, Keheleth, the author of Ecclesiastes, the teacher, it's not that there's nothing left at all. It's that we're called to scratch away things to see that the only thing that's left is God. And it's God that, above all things, we need to trust. He's the one in whom we find ultimate meaning. He's the one we can trust completely. And that's why, for the people of God, for the Jewish people, the book of Ecclesiastes was read every year at the festival of booths, of tabernacles, a bit like the time of our harvest festival when things would be gathered in. They would read this book of Ecclesiastes to remind themselves that not everything is secure. It reminds them of their journey through the desert, those wilderness years recorded in the book of Exodus, and that true security in the world's terms is often transient. Real security can only be found in God. So imagine that in a time of great celebration, the Feast of Tabernacles, when glasses are full and people are cheering and offering cheers to one another, that this book is read to remind them, to warn them about where true security is to be found. That just like in the Beatitudes, what we take for as a given may well be turned upside down because that's how God often works, dislocating us as we experienced and explored in the book of Job, another book of the wisdom literature like Ecclesiastes, dislocating us in order that we might find our true home, our true sense of purpose, our true meaning in God Himself. So read the book of Vanities, and it can feel like there's nothing left, but actually, God's there at the end of everything, which is how the book ends in verse 13 of chapter 12. This is the end of the matter. Fear God, keep His commandments, for that is the whole duty of everyone. So enjoy the good things of the world, absolutely. Share them generously with other people. But remember that they don't define us, they don't prove anything to us. No, true meaning, true identity is found in God alone. The book of Ecclesiastes, then, well worth a read. Don't go any further than that, though, and join me for Song of Songs tomorrow.